Todd, I just want to ask about, you went through this situation where you got a chance to go up against your former team. Patrick Maroon is going to do that now against the Ducks. Because how do you think he's approaching the series, and what are you expecting out of him?
I think there's always a little bit of extra emotion when you play against your old team. Probably ramps up a little bit in the playoffs. But he is a mature player. He's been around for a while, and he's been with us for a year and a half. I think it's sometimes a little bit different. Take Desharnais, for example. If we were going to play against Montreal, you haven't quite had a lot of time to fully embed yourself with your new team, and there's emotions both ways. But Patty's been here long enough. He's been through a lot of battles with that team already. I think he'll be just fine.
Todd, I know it's still a couple of days before you play, but based on the look you had today, there's maybe a chance Patrick goes back up onto that line with Connor and Draisaitl, and if you're considering it.
Well, we had 4 lines in practice today, and 3 of them had 4 players on them. So I wouldn't read anything into today's practice by any means. It was only 15, 20-minute skate just to get the crap out of our legs and get going again. There was nothing structurally with lines. Could Patty Maroon end up back there? Of course he could. But we have to take a look at the health of their team and plan for game 1 and make changes as we go.
You feel like he matches up well against physical defensemen, a bigger, more physical defenseman, if that's what you see?
Well, that's his strength. Of course he does. He's big, he's strong, he rolls around, he's good at the net. The grinding, heavy game is a better game for Patty than the speed game. So naturally, that would be a better fit for him if that was that type of game.
Coach, when you look at Patrick and in the last year and a half and the production that he's had, that he's never had before, that's probably what you're always hoping for. But what has caused it, do you think? And have you guys been pleasantly surprised by the output?
Well, we've been pleased with the output. I wouldn't say we've been surprised. Again, watching him play for the Ducks, my years in San Jose, I always thought he was an effective player. He played rather big minutes with Getzlaf and Perry in big game situations, and he produced with them. He adjusted some things to his training regimen here over the summer that I think has allowed him to be a more effective player. And with that became a belief system, him believing in himself and us believing in him. And his line mates clicked with him. So all of that adds up to a career year. But that year ended. It's done. It's over with. It's in the record book. We're into that secondary season now. And we'll deal with this season, and we'll worry about next year when it gets here.
Todd, you had mentioned the matchup you really wanted last series was the Hopkins line. You felt like they did a really good job. They obviously wanted a defense pairing against McDavid as their prime matchup. Can you talk about the differences when you go into Anaheim? Do you want Klefbom-Larson against Getzlaf, or are you looking at Nugent? What's the difference when you put a forward group against a forward group compared to a D pair against a forward group?
Yeah, well, I'm not going to share what our game plan is with you or anybody, but when coaches, it's easy to look for the simple match. The simple match right now is Kessler on Connor. It's a simple one. But there's always secondary ones that really come into play in a series. And, face-offs dictate a lot of matching. I don't think it's fair, and leave me out of it, fair to the 29 other coaches in the league when the media experts immediately go, well, he doesn't have this guy on the ice or he doesn't have that guy on the ice. Sometimes it's hard to get those guys on the ice. You lose a draw, they get a line change. What are you going to do, change your 5 guys? It doesn't happen that way. Matching can be overemphasized. It can take a number of players out of the game. It can destroy your rhythm. And, you'd like to have an edge. But if you don't get it, you still got to find ways to win. And we're going to play 4 of 7 games on the road. Odds are we're not going to get it. So we'll find a way to get through it somehow.
Quickly to Leon, who was very dominant in games 5 and 6. Patrick Maroon said he feels that there's a lot of people maybe don't give Leon the respect he deserves as far as his ability. You've got to coach him now for 2 years. What's impressed you most about the growth of his game and potentially where he can go even further?
Well, you probably can't measure it well, you can see it, but you can't measure the drive that he has. He's determined to be one of the best players, not just on our team, but in the league. And he takes his craft very seriously. He wears his emotions. I think he's getting better at dealing with those things. His highs come when he feels good. When it's not going so well for him, he's found ways to produce. And you throw that in with his skill set, his confidence, his size, becomes a pretty formidable player.
Todd, you've seen Ryan Nugent-Hopkins for a couple of years now, and he was talking about how his role and expectations have changed. Can you just shed some light on how he's been able to progress? And was there, a light bulb moment for him, or where maybe you saw where it's like, okay, he's actually taken a really strong step in that direction?
I don't know if there was a light bulb moment, but he has the tools to be a tremendous two-way player. And when you're chosen or selected at that spot in the draft, you often come in as a one-dimensional offensive type player. And in his situation here, he was thrust into that role and he produced, and that's the way he was going to go. He had some good years, but the team didn't win a lot. And it's always about the team. So he's been able to adjust and learn a few things. For me, at the World Cup this year, really solidified my belief in him, how well he played in those situations. Again, never talked about, not noticed. McDavid and Matthews, Eichel, all those types of players got the recognition, but there wasn't a lot of talk about Nugent-Hopkins or JT Miller, Sean Couturier that played specific roles that are essential to winning. We like the flash. We like we like the story. But there's always a secondary story that's important to winning, especially at this time of the year.
Todd, no Clefbaum on the ice today. Do you expect him to be ready for Game 1?
Yeah.
Todd, I think after Game 6, one of your quotes was you felt that the guys were playing with house money. Moving forward and talking to some of the guys inside, they see it differently. They feel that they're building and they have a lot to prove here heading to the second round. As a coach, are you glad you're hearing that from them, or would you expect it?
Yeah, I'm glad to hear it. I was the one that made that comment about house money, and it probably wasn't a real accurate comment at that time. But every series has a favorite and an underdog. And, last series, I think we went in fairly even, at least based on the pundits. I think we're coming in as the underdog, especially due to home ice, and that's fine by us. We're not just happy to be here, I think, is the message that the players are sharing with you. We're not just playing because the games are scheduled. We're playing to win. And the harder we play, the more we play, the better we're going to be for it down the road. But right now is important to this group as well.